Do we have too much government?
We need to put people ahead of corporate profits.
This system is so lopsided.
This threat is a real threat to democracy.
And I think that's really important. That's something we haven't been doing in this country for a long time.
Where do you start? What do you do? How do you do it?
Access to Democracy and other Eagan community television programming is supported by Thomson Reuters, makers of Westlawn Next and based in Eagan. Through Westlawn Next and other innovative online services, Thomson Reuters is the world's leading source of intelligent information for businesses and professionals. Online at thomsonreuters.com. And by U.S. Federal Credit Union, the member-owned financial institution offering service, value, and experience you can trust to the greater Twin Cities community.
Welcome. Access to Democracy returns, and we have new guests with us today. A very interesting situation. You know, because over the years, and by the way, I'm your host, Alan Miller, if you didn't know that or can't read it on the screen. Over the years, people have told me that I'm going to the dogs. And, you know, it hurts a little bit. But in this interview, it's an upbeat interview where we're really going to the dogs. And we have Jeff and Diana Hall, and they are the proprietors of Camp Bow Wow in Burnsville, which is a unique operation and was inspected and approved by our dog Katie before they came on the show. So I want everybody to know that. And welcome, first time here.
Good to be here. Thank you.
Explain to me how two executives from IT got involved in a Camp Bow Wow, a boarding and daycare center for dogs in what, 2006?
2006, yeah. Well, we weren't intentionally going out to look to start a company of our own, but we read an article in the local paper about someone who was doing dog daycare, and it just kind of struck us, hey, that's something that makes sense, it fits, we could use our experience, and we could do this, and we would love to work with animals. So we started researching it, looking into it. We found the Camp Bow Wow franchise and never looked back. It was the right solution for us because they had the business plan and the know-how, so we could get up, ramped and running and starting to help out dogs. So it fit us.
And in researching for this interview, and I've met Jeff before, I have not met you before, the accolades about Camp Bow Wow are really, really reassuring in terms of both not only your customers, but other agencies that review animal service institutions such as yours. And we met Jeff there with Katie, and an incredible operation. There must be 100 cages or kennels that you have there. And we happened to be there during spring break week. It was full.
Yeah.
It was. It is. It's a busy, busy place. A lot of fun going on. But Camp Bow Wow is all about the dogs. It's an opportunity for dogs. They're pack animals. They love to play. Well, it's an opportunity for them to safely play in packs and just have a good time. And you could see it when you were visiting. They're just playing together, having a blast.
Well, that's what Katie did. We turned her loose in the play area, and she had a very good time while we met you and looked over the premises. And yes, it seemed like not only were they having a good time, but that your employees were very, very dedicated and caring about more dogs than I've ever seen in one place at one time.
Yeah, our employees, they wouldn't work there if they weren't nuts about dogs, and they certainly are. But they do love the dogs. They spend time with them. They play with them. And, you know, we monitor them to make sure they don't escalate the play too much or anything. But everybody that's there is crazy about dogs, and the dogs see the employees as alpha dogs. So it's a good environment for everybody.
Now we're going to get into a rescue operation that the two of you got involved in a few minutes, but give me a little bit of individual background first, starting with Diana, in terms of business and otherwise.
Well, I've been in sales most of my career, still am actually, still working full time. I help out with the business on the side, doing the books and things. And when we're busy over holidays and weekends, I also get to go work with the dogs, which is not like a job, it's fun. I guess, I was one of those people born to help animals. I was the kid bringing home the sick animal to my mom and dad. Can I keep it? And nursing it back to health. And we lived on a hobby farm. So animals is something I've been around my whole life. And we had them in our personal life. And I had my professional business, and it just seemed to meld together for me.
I have a son who never passed a stray that he didn't pick up.
That would be me.
and try to make part of the family.
Yep.
And Jeff, what about you?
I've been in IT sales and sales management for many, many years, in all different fields of the computer industry, if you will, managing people across the country and territories all over the U.S. And I liked it. It was great. Business has been great, and that career is great. But we came to a point in our lives where we became empty nesters, so to speak, other than all the rescue animals living there. But so we had a chance to venture out, and I was able to back away from the IT world a little bit, and found our way into the dog world. And boy, I got to tell you, first of all, working for yourself, and then on top of that, working with dogs, there's no going back.
So there's something so unique about dogs. People maybe who don't have a dog don't understand it, but it's more than unconditional love. It's the intelligence that these animals have. And as we see in society now, they are performing so many different tasks, police-wise and scientific-wise and otherwise. And dogs have really come into their day in this last couple of decades.
Yeah, they really have. I think it started when all of the baby boomers' children, grew up, finished college, started their own careers, and I think dogs kind of replaced the baby boomers' children in the family. And that's why we're having such a great business, is because dogs really are family members for these people, and for us as well.
And there's something about the affection that one receives when you get home is like, wow, you're back. Oh.
Yeah, cats are in the back corner looking at us when we get home. The dogs are, you're here, we're so happy, thank goodness you came back home, and then feed me. But they're there for affection. It's a give and take. They're partners with you. They're part of your family.
There's so many books about dogs, and I was remiss, I didn't put the Toby book up here for review now, but very special dog in our lives and in our hearts. So, which we're going to display at Camp Bow Wow, I think. And,
a very touching book. You can see, obviously, how big a part Toby has played in your and Sharon's life over the years. It's big.
And we miss him still, even with the additions since, and that's important. How big is doggy daycare?
How big is doggy daycare? I don't know.
Well, when we first started in this business back in 2006, some people thought maybe it's just a fad and it might be popular for a while and then it'll disappear. It's not a fad. It's a serious business. People are busy, and probably one of the greatest needs of a dog is exercise. And they are by nature pack animals. So this is a daycare at any of the open play format daycares. There's an opportunity for people to drop their dog off. The dog plays with all his pals all day long, gets all that exercise and maybe a nap and a meal if they need it and all that, and they're monitored and taken care of and everything. At the end of the day, people, after their busy day at work, They come back, they pick up their dog, they take him home, and that dog is just docile and rested, and you don't need to exercise him. You probably don't need to exercise him for a day or two after they come home from a daycare situation.
And it's gotten bigger over the years, certainly. As I said, the last couple of decades, where people are really looking for doggy daycare to leave their animal, know it's going to be cared for, fed if necessary, and as you said, exercised, which is important.
Yeah, the pet world in itself is a $60 billion a year business. And even Camp Bow Wow, when we started, there were about 26, 27 camps, and now there's 130. And even in just the Egan, Apple Valley, Burnsville area, there are over a dozen different places like that.
Now, you also do boarding. In fact, you told us the story of somebody who was called overseas and had to board his dog at the last minute for, I guess, a matter of months.
Yes, if somebody moves over to England, sometimes dogs have to be in a quarantine situation before they can be moved to a different country. There's all sorts of regulations around vaccinations and quarantine and medical care. So they had 2 dogs that stayed with us for 6 months before they moved to England to be with their owner. So we helped them out there. And as far as boarding, that has become just a necessity for people. People still want to travel, or they need to travel for business, and they want to be able to entrust their dog to someone that they know will take care of it. We have webcams, so you can watch your dog play whether you're in Hawaii or at work. You shouldn't watch too much while you're at work. It's a little addicting, but you can be assured that your dog is happy and having a good time, see who their friends are, watch what they're doing, and it's peace of mind. So you can have your vacation or your work and not worry about your dog.
Yeah, we have for years on vacations, before we knew you folks, and we haven't utilized Camp Bow Wow yet, had somebody who comes and moves in and lives in with the dog when we're away, so that the dog's routine is not disturbed.
Yes.
And, here with other dogs and people paying attention to it, they're certainly a happy animal.
And routine is a key word that you said there, because dogs love routine. And so we're the same way at camp, where we have our regular schedules when the dogs come in, when they go out to play, when they come in to eat. We let them rest when they have a full stomach. We don't want them playing on a full stomach because of something called bloat, which is very dangerous for dogs. But every day it's the same type of routine, and the regulars love it. They come in, they get their nose pointed at the door, they know where they're going, they know what yard they're in, they know who they're going to see. And then when mom and dad comes to pick them up, they know the other door to go in, they get the leash on, and it's a routine that they enjoy also. So
And it's a large premises that you have there.
we have about 7,000 square feet, and then another couple thousand outside, because Camp Bow Wows all have outdoor space. We think that's very important for dogs to get fresh air.
And that's year-round, actually, also.
Absolutely.
isn't it?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. We're
Rain,
open
snow.
365. Oh yeah, the Huskies love it outside when it's snowing.
It's all temperature controlled, but it is an open play format, meaning the dogs can go in and out at will. And they go in and out at
Go
will,
back and
just
forth and back.
constantly chasing around. But they
Yeah.
do go in and out all year round, and they love it.
Well, we saw that when Katie was there. She went out, and then she would come back because she wanted to make sure, I guess, that we were still there. And then reassured, she took off and went out again. And it was really enjoyable to watch.
One of the key things we liked about the whole Camp Bow Wow system is it's all about the safety for the dogs. So enabling them to come inside and outside but still be in a safe environment is huge. So it's all, perfectly containable. Once they're in the facility, they're not getting out. So
Now, we've just heard about a dog influenza in the last couple of weeks. How does that affect an establishment like yours, and how does it affect the dogs?
Well, we've really become kind of dog aficionados since we've been in this business. So we're really up to speed on any sort of diseases or vaccinations or anything that's going on. Canine influenza actually is nothing new. It's kind of like human influenza. There's different strains that happen every year. Sometimes the media gets a hold of a situation and it can be hyped up a little bit, but it's really all about making sure that you pay attention to your dog. If you see signs of your dog being sick, you need to talk to your vet or take it to see a vet. It's the same thing with all other viruses or anything that happen with animals. So the main thing is to be aware. Our employees are all certified, go through certain certification process to how to handle animals and to observe animals, dogs. And we're all very aware of the different symptoms of this and other viruses that are out there, and it's our job to make sure we take care of your pet just like you would.
Now, you got involved in a very unique, I don't know if it's an idea or an effort, I guess, when you were in La Paz, Mexico, and you saw many, many stray dogs. You decided that you're going to save them and rescue them and bring them to Minnesota and teach them English. So, because they only spoke Spanish.
We'd prefer if they teach us Spanish, actually, but yeah.
And Dave just reminded me from the control room that you have a lot of pictures. So let's talk about this effort, and then we'll talk about the effort itself. And there's one up right now. What are we seeing there?
This is a picture of volunteer members of the shelter in La Paz that we have connected with, and we started to raise funding to get food to help the dogs that were living on the beach. So they're out there giving them food and dogs that had never even had a solid meal probably their entire life. And some of our efforts started getting these dogs regular meals.
And actually, we have a website also that we will put up because you really have started a $10,000 effort to get these dogs saved and transported to the United States. What have we here?
This is the first group of dogs we got to Minnesota. This is their initial entrance. This is a picture taken at Camp Bow Wow. We brought them in and they started playing like crazy. I think it was the first time any of these dogs had ever been indoors, because they were rescued from Mexico, and they lived out on a ranch, if you will, outside. And they were just having so much fun playing on the play equipment and running around and happy. And this is a group that we worked with Last Hope organization, a local rescue, to find homes for.
So you're working with a Mexican rescue operation as well as one here in Minnesota, and then seeking to have placement of the dogs. And here's a couple of cuties right there.
Yeah, that's Bella and I think that's Mia. Yeah.
Mia and Maddie behind her.
Maddie's in the back. Yeah. They're so happy.
Yeah, our initial effort was to rescue all those homeless, starving dogs on the beach. It turned into more than that. There are not, people say, well, why, there's plenty of dogs needing rescue in Minnesota. Why don't you just rescue them? Well, that's all true, but there are a lot of rescue organizations in Minnesota.
Very, very handsome animal. But,
that's Flaco.
Yeah, that's Flaco. But there's not a lot of rescue opportunities in Mexico, so we knew we had to bring them here. So we just started hooking up and doing the legwork and to find out, how do you do that? How do you get dogs from Mexico to here? We've learned a lot.
How do you do that?
Well, the first thing we did was we contacted the local rescue in La Paz, and we said, oh my goodness, look at all these dogs we found living together in a pack on the beach. And there's cats living in there too.
Is that some of the dogs that we're looking at right now?
Yep,
they just run wild on the beach.
Yeah, they were just living on the beach. There's a homeless guy that was there trying to feed them, but he wasn't getting much food himself at the time. So this is a picture when we first started bringing food out. We were on vacation, but of course, every day we had to come bring the dogs some food. And this rescue organization we contacted, we found out they were full. They couldn't take any dogs in. So that's when we knew we had connections here in Minnesota due to our business, that we knew we could figure out a way to help them. You can see in this picture how some of the bones sticking out on how skinny some of those dogs were on the beach. And the very interesting thing is we filled a tray full of food and we put it down, and there was no aggression whatsoever. These dogs all got along fine. They scrambled for the food, but they got along so well. And we were just impressed with all the dogs we've met in Mexico. They're very socialized. They're good with people. They're good with dogs. They're good with cats. They just need to find families.
Now, how do you get them from Mexico to Minnesota?
Well, as you might guess, there are a lot of regulations and so forth.
Who is this guy here, by the way?
That's Marone.
That's Barone. He's a little puppy at the time.
Chocolate lab puppy.
The first time we were there were like maybe 17 dogs on the beach. A couple days later, the homeless man that lives near there all of a sudden brought out 8 3-week-old puppies.
That's one of them.
This is one of them here. So there were even more than we realized. In fact, it's increasing all the time. But nonetheless, we had to get these dogs from the beach into where they can receive good medical treatment, spaying, neutering, and all that. We had to make room. So we had to first start the rescue to rescue the dogs in the facility.
So
Empty the facility, then get these dogs into the facility.
The Mexican facility.
The Mexican facility
Yeah.
down there near La Paz. They work with an organization in California across the border.
And we have the website up now. If anybody wants to donate in terms of the very expensive procedure that you're going through here and what you've done so far, there it is.
Yeah, it's a great cause, and we are going to, by hook or by crook, we're going to raise enough money to rescue all of the dogs.
Well, let's hope it's by hook and not by crook.
Yes, okay, whatever it takes, though. Yeah,
That's,
indeed.
But,
so far
how
we've-
many have you brought back so far?
So far, we've only brought 6 back so far. The rest of the dogs, these are the dogs that were originally in the shelter. So the shelter was full, so we need to move those dogs out to get the dogs from the beach to go into the shelter. So we've worked with them to help rescue them locally. Also, some have recently been rescued up in Canada. They've gone to Canada, and the 6 have come here. And now some of the dogs from the beach are in the shelter, and we're working to get those all medically ready to be transported up here. We're going to be getting another shipment next week, I believe, of maybe 5 or 6 more. So it's all about coordinating, getting the crates to get them in, and it has to be in a certain program with the airlines, and getting the flights. They do have to stay overnight in Chicago, to the flight we took last time anyway, and you have to pay for the border fees and vet fees and certification fees, and
Get them passports?
pretty much it's like it's
Well,
called
actually,
a CVI, but it's almost like
literally,
a
these
passport.
dogs all have passports that look very similar to mine or your passport, with same little folding thing with the pictures and all the medical documentation and everything.
Because of course they have to have their vaccinations. I mean, you have to be very careful, and again, you mentioned the canine, the influenza. You need to make sure the dogs that you're bringing in or moving anywhere are 100% healthy.
Healthy dogs,
Yes.
yeah. So you spay them or neuter them and
treat
make
them
sure
for
they're
anything.
vaccinated for all the necessary vaccinations. And this runs into big bucks.
It does, it does. Thankfully, there's a lot of great volunteers at the Canine Rancho del Perro in La Paz that are helping us out, spending a lot of their good time, but they also need the supplies and the medical supplies to help us out.
And you have raised how much so far?
Well, we have raised $13,000. Our goal now is $20,000 because the number of dogs doubled because we had to get the dogs out of the shelter too. So we're still trying to get to that goal, which will hopefully be enough to get all the dogs forever families.
And if anybody wants to send it, again, we have the site right on the screen at the moment. So an incredible operation, and I have never heard of anything similar from country to country. Very unusual. And as you said, we do have many dogs here in Minnesota, but you're sending them to Canada, you're sending them elsewhere.
Yep, and there actually are a lot of people looking for dogs too in Minnesota. There's a pretty good rescue program here. We're one of the states that we understand rescue and support rescue, and there's actually demand for them in Minnesota. So it's easier to bring them to places like Minnesota to find them
Well,
homes.
our 3 have all been rescues,
See?
and yours have all been rescues. And yes, there's no reason not to save a dog
Exactly.
if you have the opportunity. And they are so appreciative, and they show that appreciation in just so many ways. And it's one of those things that if you're not a dog owner or a dog lover, you don't understand until perhaps you go through it. And it's beyond description. It's really an experience.
Yeah, our timing has been good. Most of these dogs are very, very happy dogs, and almost all of them are very young as well. So they're prime candidates for joining families.
So the 6 that are coming in next week, what breeds are they? Obviously, they're mixed breeds, but
Yeah, we've talked to some other rescues in Mexico, and they've made up names for the breed of Mexico. It's hard to say, There's some sort of lab Mexican dog. Actually, they're smaller than a lab, most of them, but they're different sizes. They're really strays that have come together to form their own pack. So how they got there, where they came from, the original dogs, the history is really unknown. There are tons of stories about how people in Mexico don't treat dogs the same way as we do here. They're not family members, kind of like back in the old days with us where we just had them out on the farm and they were just out there and hanging out, and they're still at that phase.
they hang out outside, and you make sure that they're fed, but they pretty much are on their own.
Exactly.
As opposed to the way we pamper them here.
Exactly. And then they don't have the financial means we have here either in Mexico, so as tax goes up on dog food, which happened recently, they can't afford to keep the dogs, they just let them go. They don't have snow to deal with, so
That's
they just
true.
let them go, and they end up being strays, and there's tens of thousands of stray dogs in Mexico. We're just trying to do our part to help what we can.
Well, maybe it will expand even beyond your incredible effort
Hopefully.
to this point.
Hopefully.
And Camp Bow Wow is on Ewing Avenue in Burnsville. It's worth just going down to see the operation and really the size and how well mannered and how well cared for these animals are. And we're talking with both Jeff and Diana Hall here for the first time, and we'll have you back in a few months as we try again to suggest to people that they contribute, and even more important, take a dog into your home, because when you do that, you're taking a love into your life.
Yes.
And
You're changing the world for that dog, absolutely.
absolutely, and changing the world for yourself.
You are.
And I know, it's interesting because Katie has her own bed. And if I get up in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom, I come back and there's Katie on my pillow.
What do you know? That's how it works.
Not a surprise.
She's surprised, but never asleep, only one eye
Yeah.
asleep.
They're always keeping an eye
Yeah,
on
we
you.
have to have a king-size bed to accommodate all
Yeah.
our guests. That
I
we,
would think in your family, yes.
It's crowded.
But,
we do, yeah.
well, I thank the two of you so much for coming in here again, and we'll continue the drive to get these dogs here and suggest that folks get in touch with you and participate. And Camp Bow Wow thanks both of you.
Thank you.
Alan, thank you very, very much for helping us. Appreciate it.